lots of institutions talk about diversity and diversifying their audiences and new ways of working, and we actually think this is quite an interesting way of doing that. My name's Anwar Akhtar. I'm the director of the Samosa, an online news and culture site that links South Asia and Britain, and I've been involved in setting up Pakistan Calling with staff at the RSA to try and bring stories from Pakistan about work in Pakistan that civil and cultural organisations and education organisations are doing into Britain and raise awareness in Britain about that work.
For me, this project's about three things. It's about contributing to a more positive and a more informed and a more nuanced conversation about Pakistan in Britain, getting away from the idea that we can only talk about Pakistan in terms of issues to do with extremism and terror and it being a failed state. Secondly, it's around engaging the British Pakistani diaspora, an incredibly important community in this country, a community we'd like to know more about the RSA. We'd like to see more British Pakistanis in our fellowship, for example. And then thirdly, and this builds on an area of expertise for the RSA, it's around showcasing social entrepreneurship. So initiatives in Pakistan which are seeking to make society better, ground level initiatives, and linking those kinds of examples of social enterprise, social innovation to social enterprise and social innovation within the British Pakistani community, so that the dialogue that takes place between the diaspora and Pakistan is around how in very different ways and very different settings people are addressing similar kinds of issues, whether it's youth unemployment or domestic violence or how do you get kids to go to school or whatever it might be. And that, I think, is a much richer dialogue. There's a huge potential for that.
It's been a process of conversations between the RSA and the Samosa, but essentially it is about the fact that there's huge interest in Pakistan, and can you take the relationships that British Pakistanis have got with Pakistan and connect that into wider work in Pakistan around development, around education, around welfare, given lots of British Pakistanis are involved in that work through family or peer-to-peer or through small-scale projects, and connect it into the larger scale activity that DFID and the Foreign Office are involved in, try and engage organisations like the British Council to get involved in this work and engage the British Pakistani community.
The RSA is always interested in making a positive impact wherever we can. One of the great things about the RSA is we're not kind of restricted. Lots of other charities focus on one issue, the environment or housing or whatever. We really go wherever it is we think we can make a difference, and this is really interesting. We're doing it because we'd like to have stronger links into the British Pakistani community, and we're doing it because it's around social enterprise, which is a really big area for us. So our fellows organise in all sorts of groups, and one of the most active groups of fellows is we have hundreds of RSA fellows involved in discussing social enterprise. So it's a subject we're interested in, it's a community we're interested in, and it's an opportunity to make a difference.
It's very difficult for establishment institutions to often engage on issues to do with Pakistan and British Pakistanis because they are concerns. It is a very difficult place, and sadly that is actually replicated with a lot of donor organisations. I've lost count of the amount of major trusts, major foundations and major donors that have just gone, we find Pakistan too difficult, we don't even know where to begin. And this is some of the largest development organisations and charitable trusts on the planet. And so essentially what the RSA and the Samosa have been trying to do is show that there are ways to engage, that there are amazing civil society organisations doing incredibly powerful work in really difficult circumstances. And how do you make sure that work's sustainable? How do you make sure that work has longevity?
When I was involved in the Labour Party years ago, I think that there was an unhealthy kind of culture around the engagement of the British Pakistani community. It was all to do with kind of mobilising blocks of votes in that community and engaging particular elders in the community who would kind of mobilise those votes. And I think it was a rather instrumental relationship. I think the conversation is healthier and more interesting than it was even just 10 years ago.
Pakistan's got an existential crisis in terms of population growth, marginalised people, lots of people outside of education, sectarian strife, religious tensions, and there's a great resource of intellectual and cultural capital the British Pakistani community has got that essentially has not been used. And it's in Britain's interest. It's not about is it in British Pakistani's interest, or it's in Pakistan's interest, or it's in everyone's interest for Pakistan to be stabilised and to be given a positive future, given the importance of that region and that region's historic links to Britain.
People trying to improve communities, British Pakistani communities in Britain, whether it's in Oldham or Bradford or the East End or whatever, have got a lot more in common than we might think with people in Pakistan trying to achieve the same objectives in a Pakistani setting. And that is, seems to me, that is a much better basis for dialogue and for understanding than going around the same old questions which we tend to read in the kind of national media whenever we see the word Pakistan.
What I would say to people is when they view the films on the Pakistan Calling platform and they look at the institutions and the organisation, they actually follow up and go on the websites, find out about those organisations. For British Pakistanis, I'd urge them to actually, next time you're over in Karachi or Lahore or Mirpur or Multan, go and visit them. See if you can help whilst you're there. Lots of people are already doing that.
My ambition for the project is that by identifying really great social innovation, social enterprises in Pakistan, by generating a new dialogue between social innovators in Pakistan and in the British Pakistani community, one of the things we can do is to explore using new techniques like crowdfunding to start to see the community in this country helping to support really interesting innovations in Pakistan and learning from those innovations. So, the starting point is a set of films and it's raising awareness, but ultimately I hope that the British Pakistani community can be encouraged to give tangible support to those people who are trying to make a difference to people's lives in Pakistani communities.
For people that haven't been to Pakistan, just be open-minded. Yes, there are massive problems with sectarianism, with conflict, with violence against women and minorities, but also it's a country with an extraordinary culture, an extraordinary population, and people doing incredible things in difficult circumstances to improve society there.